Boom, we are live. I'm sorry. Just as we were getting going, I couldn't get my camera to focus. Damn. Yeah. USB camera. So I was just sitting there, and the whole thing was completely out of focus. I didn't know how to fix it. So that is why. That took a while. I was a little bit later. I was all set to go actually, but sorry about that. I hope you're all well. It's good to see you all as usual. I've been obsessing about trying to get the focus better. And one reason actually is maybe it's been those glasses that I've been wearing as well. I've kind of gotten comfortable with them, like as a uniform for doing this. But the truth is, I don't need them. And if it helps the camera focus better, I think that might actually be part of the reason that it hasn't been working very well. I hope you've all had a good week. I've had a busy week. I've just noticed I've put up like 4 tracks this week. I think one of them I might have actually put up and played last week. I'm not sure, the Ginza Jazz Attack one. I'm not sure if I put that on before the show or after the show. But anyway, I've got like a bunch of tracks which I guess I'll play in the background while I say hello to you guys. No hat for me. Do people want me to wear a hat? Well, I guess I should. Maybe if I'm not going to wear glasses, I should wear a hat. I need some sort of a uniform, don't I? I've got a silly hat, so I've got the sheep hat. Well, that does feel easier to do, you know, when I'm with Victor and with Nihonjon last night. By the way, that was like, I think, just personally speaking, I think that was like the best 2.5 Oyajis in a while. They're all pretty good, but the one with Nihonjon last night, I think Victor was in good form. We talked a little bit about I need him to shut me down because, as you guys know, I can talk just for an hour, like, easily, and not let anybody interrupt. So, yes, I need him to tell me to shut up every now and then. And, yes, he said we cleared the other. He can totally do that. In fact, I want him to do that. Plus, Nihonjon's just like an amazingly interesting guy. I mean, he's been like the #2 host in Japan. He's worked at an investment bank. He's worked at startups. And what was the other thing? He's like 4 super. Oh, and he's left the Mormon religion, but he's worked as a missionary in Japan before leaving. And 4 super interesting things. He's got a channel, Book of Mormon. Book of Host, not Book of Mormon, which you should totally go and check out. Actually, he's a really interesting guy. I met him a couple of times at YouTube events as well, and he's got stories to tell, and that's what I think you want to catch. Plus, he's like, you know, he's as knowledgeable as anybody. I mean, you know, about Japan. So go and check that one out. So I'll tell you what, I've got like 4 tracks. The 4 tracks that I have, I've got Ginza Jazz Attack. Did I play that last week? I should have checked this before the show. There's Ginza Jazz Attack. There is, there's a couple. I made some good tracks this week. I made 2 like EDM tracks using Hikosaemon, one of which I think I'm going to play at the end of the show, although I just uploaded it earlier tonight. I've got 2 drum and bass tracks. I'm really liking the drum and bass tracks, but I can't really perform them live because of the software, which if I've got time at the end I might show you, but I've got a lot to talk about today. So anyway, tell me if the volume is too high or if it's too low, and I will play these in the background. So there that goes. Tell me if you cannot hear that. And yes, I agree, Sean, bro, that guy should read a book. Tell me louder or less loud because I can't hear at the moment. And I will play some jazzy music while I get into talking about going through saying hello to all the people who are here today. So let me move the mouse over here. Let's go up the top. And oh, look at that, there's already so many comments. It's already maxed out at the top, so I know there's some people there at the top, but let's go through. We've got Mr. Cordy Chep, Ben Duncan. I went and checked out my track. Thank you for doing that, sir. Someone talked about the 9th planet. I haven't talked about the 9th planet. It looks like, well, they've found evidence that there might be a 9th planet, like on a super far out orbit, like what is it, 30 times further out than Neptune or something like that. And yes, indeed, all the Nibiru conspiracy theorists, all the people who, if you've watched the movie Prometheus, you know, the prequel to the Alien saga, it's based on, what's his name? The guy who is kind of shown up to be a bit of a fraud, but he's written books based on reading these old Sumerian stories, in which he finds evidence that human civilization was given to us by aliens from a planet Nibiru, which orbits the sun every 10,000 years or something, and they've found a planet which looks like it meets all of those criteria, but we will find out. That was kind of interesting science news, and someone mentioned that. But evening to light Japan, our South African man in Saga. Another man in Saga, Bobby Judo, was down there for a long time, and I've been to Saga myself. It's a remote, even within Japan, it's a famously remote part of Japan, and on top of being remote, they're now buried in snow. But yes, good to see you here, and thank you for joining. Ben Duncan, good to see you, and yes, I did use Calculator for the newest track. Who else have we got here? We've got bada-boom, bada-boom, bada-boom. By the way, say hello to me now, so I'll catch the comments. I just like to say hello to you guys. Talking about my tracks with Ben Duncan there. That was pretty cool. Saint Sunday, always good to see you. Thank you for joining. Phoenix 787, yes, the new track is on the way. In fact, I might play around if this time at the end I can show you. Who else we got here? We got Nick Pomata from Italy, who I believe I looked up. How do you say hello in Italian? Because it's actually ciao you associate with goodbye in English, but apparently you say ciao for hello as well, and good to see you indeed, and thank you for the nice vibes about 2.5 Oyajis. And definitely, go and check out, it was on Victor's channel, but check out the show from last night. Victor just called it Startup, which I think is like interesting, but not the most interesting thing about Johan John or that show. It was a really good show. I had a lot of fun doing it as well. I think it was a really good conversation. What would you expect from the number 2 host in Japan? Easy, but I think we were all in good form last night, which was good. I was wearing my big crazy Australian Outback hat, which I could go get again, but I don't think I need to. And by the way, yes, like Japan, thank you for following me on SoundCloud, and use the tracks. They're there to be used by YouTubers and videos if they want to use them. Hey Numstay, good to see you. Robert 1967 Canada and Mr. Cordy Chep, always good to see you guys. Globby, welcome. And who was it that couldn't go to work or whatever? Yo, Globby, yes, I'm sorry you couldn't go to the beach because of a World War II bomb, and were left watching me instead. Well, I'm glad to know I'm better than a bomb anyway. So there you go. Mr. Cordy Chet mails off enough, but that's all good. Sean Bro, great to see you. Icarus 18, great to see you back. Lots of familiar faces here, always good to see that. Always good to see new faces as well. Who else we got in here? We got scrolling down. Lots of from Phoenix there. Average Weeboo, good to see you, Average Weeboo. Weeboo's welcome. I mean, I remember when I was first called a Weeboo, I didn't even know what the hell a Weeboo means. But yes, good to see you. Frederick Koenig, good to see you, welcome. Who else have we got here? Mata Gaijinka, good top of the morning to you. Bio McNeil made it. Hey, Bio McNeil, good to see you. And yes, let me know about your project. Looking forward to doing that with you. Megan Conrad, Megan, good to see you. Thank you for joining and welcome. Who else we got here? Sumi-chan, good to see Sumi-chan. Elvast Verstandige. By the way, so I just realized I haven't heard anyone talking about the volume, so I'll go and check that in a minute because I'm about to catch up. Matagajinka Hemingford Grey 62, good to see you from Milton Keynes, indeed, good to see you there. Hey, KNS TV, great to see you. Nice to see you following. I saw last night as well, so thank you for joining me. Gifted Ones 1981, preparing some tea. I hope you got that tea done. King Codist, good to see you. And Boom, yeah, I'm sorry I was out of focus, so I was taking some extra time. It's actually in pretty good focus tonight, and I think it's because I lost the glasses, so there you go. Advertisement, there's advertisement. You're already falling asleep. I hope that's not when I started talking, although that could happen. That could happen. That could mean that we're married. If that's the case, because that's what happens when I start talking at home. El Comedo, thank you for using my tracks. By the way, I really like that you use Foggy Neon. I think that's one of my favorite tracks that I've made. I like that on your last track, and yeah, good stuff with the cosplay and the interview vids and stuff like that. It's kind of cool. I'm enjoying watching your vids, and I appreciate using the music, so thank you for that. Cybergirl, Cinder is 0 degrees with 5 centimeters of snow. Okay, well, it could be a lot worse up there, actually. It's pretty cold in Tokyo, but yeah, we're probably 2 or 3 degrees. We're not below 0 at the moment. We're supposed to have snowed last night and today, but it didn't really happen. But it did happen everywhere else, including, well, we'll get to the stories, but first snow in 115 years in Amami-Oshima, which is like halfway between the bottom of Kyushu and Okinawa. I've got a friend from there, actually. Kiri Washington, great to see you always. Thank you for joining. And Shubus from Panama. Buenos dias, I guess buenos dias we are. Yeah, it's early in the morning, good to see you. Excodia 1, nice to see you, Excodia 1, and unfamiliar name, so always good to see a new name. Travis Moore, I see Travis Moore at the top, so now I'm worried I've probably skipped over. In fact, I'm going to try using the scroll wheel instead of dragging, because it makes me worry that I have been missing people out. 071, see, there you go, good to see you. And Eltonic, I missed Eltonic as well, good to see you, Eltonic. as well as Travis Moore, great to see you. Gifted Ones, and you're from Sweden, cold Sweden, I'll bet it is. Bradley Ford, excellent, good to see you. Hope you enjoyed your trip up north in Australia and you made it safe back to Geelong. I was actually just recently, there was a Discovery Channel special on UFOs, and there was a case involving, I actually find those things boring now. I used to really like them, but there was one involving a UFO between Kings Island and Cape Otway, and I used to live in Point Lonsdale, which made me actually suddenly think to go back onto Street View. They didn't have very good Street View for Point Lonsdale last time that I checked. That's where I lived when I was about 8-9 years old. I lived near Geelong, where Bradley Ford lives, and so I checked it out again, and you can actually like drive around the streets now. I was shocked because all the roads were sealed. They weren't dirt roads anymore. I mean, it was a beautiful little town, so it was kind of cool. I've been very nostalgic about that part of the world recently. Slake Manson, great to see you. Snowy North Carolina. I know a couple of North Carolinians actually. It's kind of funny how there are lots of North Carolinians, and indeed, I know you guys are buried in snow. You're getting the same storm that the New Yorkers have been getting. I guess that's been getting all the news attention. But yes, well, I'm glad you're joining me for this. Anyway, that's pretty cool. Who else we got here? We got Tai Nakamura. Bradley, I didn't know that you'd started a venture-funded startup in Japan. I've been on the funding side and the legal side of those things, but I've never actually worked on those. It's pretty interesting, actually. I'd be interested to hear what sort of a startup it was. It was a pretty interesting chat, and we didn't really get into too much of the details, although it was pretty interesting, the chat last night with Nihonjo. Weeaboo, I don't know how you're supposed to pronounce it, and I don't really care either. I mean, for people's names, of course, if you're going to call yourself that by name, that's cool. But yes, indeed. So there we go, Excodia. I missed out a bunch of people when I got to Excodia. Wow, there's a lot of people. And yeah, I think we've caught up. So just tell me again, how was the volume? Is the volume okay for the music in the background? Can you hear it at all? Because this one, Arcade Drummer, I posted this earlier in the week and I really like this one. This is drum and bass. I've never heard anybody combine drum and bass with chiptunes, and I wanted to. It's a first go and it's just a lot of samples, but this is my attempt at that. So yeah, how do you like it? I'm gonna dip that over there and maybe zoom in a little. I don't know. How's it? Yeah, it all looks the same. It doesn't look any better actually. Lucas Musso, great to see you. Thank you for joining. And LOL Geelong. Hey, Geelong is okay. The volume of the music is good. Well, that's good. This track that's playing right now, this is Arcade Drummer, and I kind of like it. It's a good track. So yeah, it's 15 minutes. Let's get into the topic. So I'll let the music keep playing, because why not? If that's okay. If this is a good balance, you can hear me talk, but the music's playing in the background. It's not clashing too much. The track which comes after this will probably be the one that I uploaded tonight, which is called Kakushin. And that's kind of an EDM track. So I'm kind of going, EDM, drum and bass, EDM, drum and bass. But actually, the drum and bass music I think is a lot better. I love the beats, and I can control the beats a lot more with this iMachine 2 software. So yeah, I'm having a lot of fun with that. Although the EDM stuff as well is fun. And actually, the final track I think I'm going to play around with at the end of the show. But anyway, right into it. So Kakushin, that's the track that's coming after this one, and it's pretty good. I quite like it actually, and you'll hear it pretty soon. A list here actually, this is an interesting one. It's talking about stations that are popular to live in Tokyo, based on train station, which are the equivalent of towns if you're looking to move here. But it also gives a ranking based on what young women want to live in. It's not so much, I guess, if you want to live in a town where young women live, that is good, but yeah, it's funny, it is not letting me zoom in on the article. Why is that? How do I do that? But anyway, the stations that were most popular, which were kind of out of the way, some of the most popular stations for living. But you know what, I want to get into this. So that's the one. Here we go. So this is in Japanese, but it's interesting just for the latest information on what the trendy neighborhoods in Tokyo are. If you're thinking of coming or you want to come, there they are. So generally speaking, and this is okay, so this is based on different areas. So they divided Tokyo up into like 4 zones, I think. So the first zone covering Shinagawa, Meguro, Ota, Setagaya, kind of the trendy neighborhoods. So generally speaking, the most popular places are Jugaoka, really cool, nice neighborhood. Nakameguro, very trendy, become trendy neighborhood. Futako Tamagawa, Meguro, Sangenjaya, Shimo Kitazawa. I guess that's Seijo, Gakuen Mae, and Gakugei Dayaku. All nice neighborhoods all along the Toyoko line. However, the number one for young women is actually Sangenjaya. I've got friends who used to live in Sangenjaya, and that's kind of cool. The next one's Higashi Matsubara, which I've never actually been to before. But Komazawa Dayaku is also pretty cool. I guess it's some place that there are university students. But the number 4, Shimo Kitazawa, number 6 overall, but 4 for young people. And yeah, I totally agree with that. That's a really cool neighborhood. Down the bottom there, Komaba Todai Mae and Ikijirohashi, 8 and 9. 9 is Komaba Todai Mae. I used to live actually exactly in between Komaba Todai Mae and Ikijirohashi, and they're very, very cool neighborhoods. So yeah, I endorse this list. For other parts of Tokyo, I've done it by zone, not overall. And I guess it's a fair way to do it because people, travel to, maybe they work in different areas. So for the Nakano, Suginami, Nerima areas, the most popular overall is Nakano, followed by Ogikubo, followed by, I should check that. I can read all of these first. There's Koenji, and I think that's Asagaya. That's Asagaya, number 3. Those are all, Koenji is like super trendy at the moment, but there you go, number 1, Nakano Sakura. Used to live there. I used to live actually between Nakano Shinbashi, which is number 3, and Nakano Sakura, which you can actually walk to Shinjuku from there, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, sorry about the echo. Am I echoing? I hope I'm not echoing. But anyway, you know what? My drum and bass track is not playing right now. Play. Let me just check this. Why is that not playing? Okay, I'm just going to skip to the track that I did tonight. I'll come back to that last track. So this is the track that I uploaded tonight anyway, so you can hear that. But yeah. And Ogikubo's, convenient because you've got the Chua line, which is a very convenient line, as well as the Marunouchi line, which connects to everything. So in Zone 6, if you're like in the Chiyoda, the Minato, the kind of the Gaijin Ghetto, this is like if you want to go to Roppongi a lot, or you go to Akihabara a lot. Most popular neighborhoods in the central zone, you could call this, Ebisu, Shinjuku, Omotesando, Shinagawa, Shibuya, Akihabara, Yoyogi. That's on the left-hand side. However, on the right-hand side, is that Jimbocho? No, that couldn't be Jimbocho. What is that? Jeez, you know what? I can't even read that first one. I should have checked that one. Nihonbashi, wow. People want to live in Nihonbashi. It's like a super office district. Mitsukoshi Mae, also office district. Kind of, very much salaryman district. Ningyocho, Yurakucho. It's kind of, wow. It's kind of surprises me. These are, on the right-hand side, the kind of places that young women, I guess they want to live there for convenient commutes. But, kind of grungy neighborhoods. And then the Ikebukuro type area. You got Ikebukuro at the top, Kitasenju, where I used to live, Ueno, Toyosu. Toyosu is pretty popular actually, and Meijiro. Toyosu, so on the left hand and the right hand side, what women want to live in: Ariake, Ikebukuro, Ryogoku. But anyway, this is an interesting list. If you're thinking of moving to Tokyo and you want to pick out neighborhoods and know what's kind of popular based on, and they're popular because they're nice neighborhoods. Well worth checking out. So yes, the show last night. Is the link is here. This is Meet a Startup Guy, 2.5 Oyajis. That was a really good show. This was our first show in a while, so definitely go and check that. By the way, Zombie Panda, so good to see you, and thank you for joining. I think that's another name that I don't recognize, but yeah, there's a lot of people here in neighborhoods in Tokyo. It really comes down to as well. One piece of advice I'll give about moving to Tokyo is move close to where you're going to work. You don't want more than a 1 hour commute in any direction because the commutes are brutal. So pick a neighborhood. There are good neighborhoods all over the place, and basically try to pick out a cool neighborhood that's with not too much of a commute from where you need to be every day. If you work in Akihabara, or near Akihabara, it's cool to live there, I guess, if you find a nice place. But you want to pick a nice place, but you don't want to be going. If you live working in Hachioji, you don't want to live in Akihabara, of course. And the same thing, you don't want to live in Hachioji if you're working in Yokohama or so. You want to be able to. So you get a bit savvy with where you're going to need to be day to day before you pick out where you want to live. Good show last night, and definitely check that out. And by the way, Nihon John, the guy who we talked to, his channel is Book of Host, and it's worth checking out. So yeah, interesting interview in Japan Times that came out. This is by the way, tell me how you like the music if you can hear it. And Mr. Cordy Chip, 2.5 hours, that's brutal. I've done that before, and I only did it for a couple of months because that was too much. But Zombie Panda Soup, did I get trapped on Monday? I didn't. Well, I worked at home that day, and I have some flexibility about that. So yeah. And Ben Duncan, you're in an awesome neighborhood. It's a really hard neighborhood to get into, but because I guess you're sharing a room or you're renting a room, that makes it easier. But yes, indeed. Yeah. Hope you can hear the track and tell me what you think of it. Article, a really interesting article about Yukio Hatoyama, the first of the 3 Democrat prime ministers. And an interview with him. I read it, it reminds me of how frustrated I was talking with him. Not talking with him, having him as prime minister, because I really supported him coming in, because his government really supported what I've always thought is the most important need for change in Japan, which is changing the unaccountable nature of the sort of bureaucracy and the way that it's gone out. It's outside of kind of accountability and control. But now let's see if I can load this track again. I'm going to try again. Oh, there it goes. Arcade Drummer. I couldn't load this one before. I thought that was really cool, because I think that's the most important issue with government, and he was kind of focused on that, but he got kind of preoccupied with a couple of other stupid things, like trying to get America out of Okinawa, which is never going to happen, and he found that out the hard way. A couple of other things, he basically just made some very naive promises that he couldn't keep, which unfortunately meant that's what connected with him resigning. And when he resigned, it got taken over by people who were completely against the agenda that the Democrats were elected to do, which was the reforming government agenda. And as a result, the whole project fell apart. However, it's really interesting if you're interested in politics and news in Japan in the last 5 years. It's actually really interesting to get an insight from the guy who was prime minister and was kicked out. And he annoys me. I just wish he had just stuck to the plan and not ruined it all by being stupid and getting fired. But getting fired or having to resign. But that's how it was. So yes. The 9th planet, or it might be East Yorkshire. Am says Amble. Welcome, Amble, by the way. Good to see you. And you loves AKB48, I guess. There you go. We've got another. I hope that you caught the show with Jake Knowlton, by the way. I found that really, really interesting. And we do have some idol stuff coming up, although not about AKB. This is out of sequence, because these are stories that I've just added today. But the one down the bottom, actually, I'm going to come and talk a little bit more about the denial of Rico Barry entry into Japan. This is the Cove guy, the dolphin guy. He was denied entry. And yes, apparently in response to that denial, they called it deportation. I don't know if that's technically deportation if they don't actually let you through customs into the country, but they're calling it deportation anyway, because they said he was here to be an activist and not to look at dolphins. He insists he was here to see dolphins as a tourist. But in any case, he was turned away, and Anonymous decided to react to that by doing a DDoS attack on the Narita Airport page, which is why for the last few days, if you've had to travel through Narita Airport, you haven't been able to access it to find out your flight information, because Anonymous has been attacking it because they don't like how immigration turned away this one guy. Which, I don't think I think it's kind of counterproductive to Japan's image to be trying to, it looks a very North Korean / China-ish to be trying to censor people kind of that aggressively and physically by deporting them for political reasons. But at the same time, when you think about how many people get turned away from the airports of Australia, America, UK every day for honestly no good reason whatsoever, it's bad, but, the other countries complaining are worse, perhaps in some respects, but that doesn't mean it's not a legitimate point to make. So, yes, and that is the result. Anonymous has decided to take a vigilante action about it. Really interesting stat. This also came up yesterday. Apparently, for foreigners who are doing exchange students in Japan, only 20% of them are interested in actually working in Japan after they graduate. And so there's a bit of a research now going in by the government as to exactly why it is that they don't find that foreigners don't find Japan an attractive place to work, which, kind of go figure. But there again, I mean, it's good that they're paying attention to this and that this number is coming out. Who knows? Hopefully it might connect with some thoughts to make Japan a bit more attractive for people who want to come here not just to study, but actually get a good job and do something interesting. That is the thing. You think of any country, think of America. People go study in America or Australia or Europe, and what percentage of people go as exchange students who are interested in staying and working after they graduate? In Japan, only 20% are interested in staying. But yes, it's an interesting stat, and so I thought that was good. I watched the entire series of Grizzly and Hash. I think I promoted it last week. That is David Yuri, not Ken Tanaka. Ken Tanaka's twin brother. As you probably already know, the story is that they were both put up for adoption, and they were Ken Tanaka was actually adopted by a Japanese family when he was a child, and ended up moving to Japan and was raised as Japanese. David Yuri was adopted by a different family and became a Hollywood actor, actually, and has been in like every awesome TV series. Most recently Breaking Bad, where he was crushed by an ATM eventually, but after getting a whole episode focused on him, it was awesome. But David Yuri is like an amazing actor, and this is the first time they've worked together, like in a proper acting thing, where David was actually, they've done videos together, but David's acting as a homicide cop with this other guy, and it's very, very funny. And Ken is actually working as executive producer on it. And hey, Chris Robinson, good to see you. You're asking me that. I can answer that, actually. I'll come back to that though. But anyway, yeah. So Grizzly and Hash, I watched the first 5 episodes. They were good. It's very police squadish. It's a bit. It's funny. It's very watchable. It's funny. It's well done. And it's at the end of the 5th episode, they said if you want more, feel free to help us, support us to make more episodes with fan funding, YouTube fan funding. And that was the first time I've ever used fan funding. First time I saw it get set up, so there you go. Oh, Dillinger, that's a good choice. I like Dillinger. Dillinger's got the very acoustic, fast sort of beats, a lot of hi-hats. I like Dillinger, but for me, I will tell you what, I really got into drum and bass in a big way from Alex Reese. I know he never made anything very much after I Feel the Sunshine and a few of those other tracks, but I like that kind of heavy jazz kind of thing. Some other ones I like DJ Zink, different sound, a bit harder, but quite like. It doesn't have to be too dark for me. Actually, I've got Omni Trio, really like them. Art of Noise, it's funny. Art of Noise, I actually liked them back before drum and bass came out, when they're making lots of stuff, and they released a fantastic, very Omni Trio type sound, very jazzy type sound drum and bass. I mean, Toate makes some drum and bass. I love Toate's drum and bass. DJ Taku from Enflow makes drum and bass. I love his drum and bass. But yes, anyway, everyone go check out Grizzly and Hash, and if you like it, I think this is supportable. It's basically Patreon built into YouTube, but for me, I mean, I support Ami Yamato. I support people who are creative and doing cool stuff, and this is supportable if you ask me. So go and check them out. Chemical Brothers, I love Chemical Brothers as well. They don't do drum and bass, but they're awesome. And I got into a big discussion about this the other day. Someone somewhere, I was posting tracks on Twitter and so on. Their best tracks actually are not like major album tracks. Crystal Method is awesome as well, indeed. Lucas Musser, that is a good one. Big fan of trance. I actually met my wife at a DJ Tsuyoshi concert, so there you go. Although I'm not really, I like trance. I like trance music, and I like playing trance, and I like making trance, but when I chose my genre for DJing, that wasn't the road that I went down. But there's some great trance parties in Japan, which I think we're going to get to, because I've got a link about Fuji Rock in here, or is it not? It might be in one of my other flipboards for this week. But this is by Naruru in Japan, doing a drawing thing with my music in the background. Thank you for that. I am with the lad now. I am still working on DMB48. I'm going to check that out. Thank you. yeah, we're going to make some lightsaber videos. Although at the same time, I am told I'm not allowed to put him on a video, so he won't be on a video. But I'm going to figure it out. I've just downloaded a plugin, and I'm going to start playing around with that. It does require frame animation, which means it's kind of. I found a preset for After Effects that makes it a little bit less painful. But I'm going to try it out anyway, and if it works, who knows? I'm going to do it. I've always wanted to do a lightsaber video, so that is coming. So look out for that. I've sound from Sapporo. Okay, I'm going to check that out. I don't know that one anyway. So yeah, interesting story about the yes, I was tripping balls at raves. I've got photos. Heavy metal, the thing, when you get old, honestly, everything starts to sound okay. I stopped being so tribal about music as I was in my 20s. Yeah, listen to a lot of stuff. There's a lot of metal I like. A lot of metal that I like, actually. But yes, anyway. So yes, Australians have experienced trance, and a little bit differently to how it's experienced in Japan. I've got to say, it's pretty chemical free here. I got to tell you, it's very drug free, and that really surprised all my Australian friends that came here to go to concerts. Talk a little bit about the bus thing. There's something which is I haven't had the time to write a blog, and I wanted to write about this. So this bus crash. There was this bus crash where how many people died? It was like 14 people died or 17 people died and 21 injured. And this bus was a ski bus. It was being chartered for university students. It was a super budget tour that was taking people up to, I believe, Nagano, to ski fields on the weekend to go. And it's there are buses all over that leave Shinjuku or Shibuya at night, full of young people, and they go up and overnight they go into the mountains to these ski fields where they can sleep in the bus, ski, snowboard all day during Saturday, Sunday, come back to Tokyo Sunday night. And these things are very popular, and there's been more and more of these. So there's a huge demand for these cheap bus rides up into the mountains. So there was this bus which crashed and rolled over and killed a bunch of people inside the bus. It was the worst road crash I think that I can remember actually since being in Japan. And NHK's paid a lot of attention to this lately, that in the last couple of years there's been a lot of really notable bus crashes, which are resulting in deaths, where these things used to be really, really rare. And there's been a lot of looking into why all of a sudden are there all these bus crashes. And there's a lot of analysis into this, but there's a few things which have stood out from all of the analysis that's gone into why all of a sudden are there all these bus crashes when there never used to be any. And the things that have come out from this, the first thing is this is the picture of the driver who, very sadly died, and it came out immediately that he was a former taxi driver, and he did not want to drive. He would drive like minibuses and stuff like that, but he did not want to drive heavy trucks, and he actually said that specifically. He didn't like driving buses, and he didn't want to do that, but the company was short-handed. He was qualified to drive buses, and they needed to cover the bookings. They asked him to, and the thing is, you have to have two drivers apparently. And this was another thing that happened, where there were crashes from exhaustion, where people were working like such long shifts that there was a driver who fell asleep. It was like narcolepsy or something. He fell unconscious at the wheel and crashed and killed some people. So it became a new regulation that you have to have two drivers if you've got a drive over X hours. So they needed a second driver, and this guy came in. He was a taxi driver, apparently, originally, who joined this bus company. And all these bus companies, with all the foreign tourists, with all the Chinese tourists, and with all of these kind of the competition opening up in these kind of bus tours, they've been short of drivers. So they've been trying to get anyone who's a qualified driver to come and join these things. So the thing is, they got him to drive, even though it wasn't, he wasn't comfortable driving buses still, and he wasn't that experienced. When he crashed, he was off the plan. He was supposed to be on the major highway, just like kind of easy to drive on. Instead, he was driving on local roads. He was driving on a local road which had a speed limit of 50 k's an hour, winding through icy roads and mountains at between 80 and 100 kilometers per hour, when he lost control of the bus and rolled it off the road. The driver in question, no next of kin, 65 years old, living alone. So this paints one picture to me that I got to say, I worked, I've said now, I used to work in a law firm. I've worked, and when the trains aren't running, the government specifically prohibits trains from running late at night for various reasons. One, at night they actually do all the maintenance on the train tracks, and so they have it for that. It's not like New York where they have double lines, so you can have trains running and doing maintenance on the lines at the same time. In Japan, they have to stop the trains, do the maintenance between midnight and 5 a.m. and then run the trains again. But there is another specific reason, which is that the government does it to protect taxi companies, because they recognize that taxi companies, taxi driving, which is still, Uber is here, but it's not really very successful yet. It's a way of soaking up unemployment, controlling unemployment. That it's kind of a valve for that. And so to protect the employment of all these taxi drivers, they give them a stable business by not having trains run at night. And I used to use taxis a lot. And when I was using taxis, there were you can kind of really tell. You learn a bit about where these drivers come from. I really liked, and I would go out of my way to go to owner-operated taxis. The smaller ones where they own the taxis themselves, they tend to be nice cars. They're well looked up. The drivers take a bit of pride. They keep the cars clean. They keep themselves clean. But some of the big fleets, some of the fleets, of course, have a good reputation that they, keep the cars clean and they have good drivers and whatever. They have strict rules or whatever. But a lot of the fleets are, frankly, and I hate to say this, but they're homeless people in cars. And again, it's nice that Japan has a system for keeping, giving these people employment. But and you can kind of tell if almost invariably if the plates have an Adachi number. Adachi is like one of the 23 wards in Tokyo, but it's known for having the highest percentage of people on welfare. Not that there's any problem with that, of course, but these are the people who are driving taxis as an alternative to being on welfare or being homeless, frankly. And you get into these cars sometimes, and these guys don't wash. They don't use baths, and the cars smell like when you're on a train next to a homeless person. And their driving is bad and aggressive, and they're rude, and they're just, you don't want to be in a confined space in these cars. I'm sorry if I'm showing some prejudice, but you've worked a long day, you're tired, you're going home at night because there's no trains, and you can't breathe inside this car, and the driver, you think you're going to die because of the driving. I got to a point where I would purposely avoid taxis. If I see a taxi still with a Adachi number, the number plate numbers in Japan, they always have on the top the local government where the number plate is registered, and you can actually, drivers from certain types of number plates have bad reputations, and unfortunately, it's slightly discriminatory, but Adachi has a bad reputation. So all this comes around. When I left this iPhone, which I'm showing off right now, I left this inside a car, inside a taxi. You might recall a couple of months ago, and it had the Find My iPhone on, and fortunately I was able to use that, and I was able to actually follow the taxi around, and I made the mistake of not collecting a receipt, so I couldn't phone up the company. So I was trying to call my phone and get someone to pick it up, but they didn't pick it up till after I got back to the depot. And what was funny was I was trying to find out where this taxi was. The taxi was called Minato Taxi. Minato is like Beverly Hills in Tokyo. It's the upmarket district. So when I found out the company, it's like had this name Minato Taxi, but the office was actually located in Akamane, which is within. You know what? It might not actually be in Adachi, but it's in that area anyway. It's in that part of Tokyo. And when I went to go and collect my phone, it was great. I could recover it and identify it. So when I went to go and collect it, I had to go way up into that part of Tokyo where actually it's kind of famous, where all these taxi companies are located, basically. And even though they call themselves Minato, they're actually still in Adachi, just like everybody else. And it was a long way from the train station. I actually had to walk about 20-25 minutes to get to the depot location. And as you go through, everything there are taxi companies and bus companies. This bus company in question was from that area, and so was this driver. And it kind of shows, it kind of paints a picture that, again, this is people who are, it shows that taxi driving in Japan has had a function of being kind of a safety net. And this ties into another issue. A lot of bus drivers have pointed out that the increase in accidents has also been tied to the deregulation of the bus industry that happened under Koizumi. It's good in the sense that there are much more options, much more bus tours going now, much more, it's much cheaper to be able to get bus rides and charters and whatever. But at the same time, they're getting drivers from wherever they can get them. It is the bad side of the tracks. I mean, it's the only way to describe it. I mean, bad side of the tracks in Tokyo is still pretty nice and still pretty safe. You could do much worse than the bad side of the tracks in Tokyo. But, when you're talking about drivers who are, drivers used to be overpaid, like train drivers, they were kind of almost elite. They wear a uniform, and they never had crashes, and now they're having these crashes. And you have guys like this who's a taxi driver who didn't want to drive buses, but he needed a job and he did it. He's got and he's practically living alone. So it just kind of paints a little bit of a sad picture, and it paints also a picture of, kind of deregulation possibly gone a little bit wild. In the short term, I know Phoenix was asking what I thought should have happened with this, or should happen with this. And what is going to happen already, they are talking already about increasing regulation and increasing inspections of bus companies to make sure. This company in question broke a bunch of rules around this accident anyway. But I think longer term, to say this in a way, there's a question: what's going to happen for people like this? But all these people have, they're basically getting into senior age where they have health problems and stuff like that. And I'm not comfortable with my kid or whatever, putting them in, any sort of situation where there might be a risk around the driver. I cannot wait. I cannot wait until you have these automatic self-driving cars, and they're going to be out there basically like trains. You have buses that are just going to be like trains, that are just going to be, you can get in them and they're just going to go from A to B. They're going to take you to your ski field, take you wherever you want to go, and they're going to be more crash safe than buses driven by people. Plus they'll be able to run 24 hours, and you won't have to worry about drivers having seizures and stuff like that. And then what happens for guys like this, I don't know. And that is a tough question as well. But there again, the guy killed 15 people or 17 people. So as much as I feel bad, he's probably a guy in a tough life situation that he ended up in this job and doing this thing. But please don't put the lives in hands of people who are in this situation anyway. And be real careful with taxis in Tokyo. They are actually making taxis cheaper. They're doing a bunch of things around taxis. They're lowering the minimum fare from 710 yen to 360 yen, I think. And just for short course taxis, because they recognize a lot of foreigners, just even for short distances. It's easier to get into a taxi than to use a train, and taxis are super expensive in Tokyo. But look out for Adachi numbers anyway. Learn the kanji for them. And yes, and I'm looking forward to robot buses. I think replacing this, hopefully by 2020 actually. Hopefully we'll start seeing buses that are self-driving. I mean, even if they're slow, I don't care. Just so long as you know when you're going to arrive, and you're pretty sure that you're going to be there alive when you get there. Snow in Tokyo on Monday. Someone's talking about snow in Tokyo on Monday. Some beautiful pictures here. This is a great picture of Harajuku, would you believe? Harajuku in snow on Monday. It melted right away. It was very slushy snow. It disappeared, but that was kind of nice. Zombie photos. That is the KO line. I talked about KO line last week, I think, where I mentioned I've gone like a whole stop on the KO line with my feet suspended above the ground back in 1998. That is the KO line, and it is the hell line because it's where everyone switches over to, whereas the Chuo line, which carries more people, shuts down, and it runs parallel to that. I have been having kind of some. I'm going to be making another series with Rochelle Culp very soon. By the way, the last series of the last episode of Japan Business Time with Rochelle Culp, we talked about what happens when shit happens in Japan, when shit happens, when shit goes down. And it was fantastic. Her advice was so good, and she told some stories, and it was a great episode. It's the best one yet, I think, of actually all the series that I've done with Rochelle. So I'd say it's a must-watch. And we've been talking, one, about how great the videos have been coming out, two, how great the comments that we've been getting in these new videos are. And she is coming to Japan like next month, and we are going to make a new series. So we are taking notes of all the comments. And if you have topic requests at the moment for the next series, go and put them in the comments to the Japan Business Time videos. And we're taking them down, and we're going to try to cover as many of those as we can in the next series when she comes back to Japan. So that is awesome. And we've been talking recently, Rochelle recently watched The Force Awakens, and we started talking a lot about the influences between Japanese influences. And she mentioned, I've read about how Kurosawa, influenced Spielberg and Lucas, and how Star Wars specifically borrows a lot from The Hidden Fortress, as well as some other Kurosawa movies. And I mentioned to her, to my embarrassment, I've only seen Run. I haven't actually watched any Kurosawa movies. And she kind of scolded me and said, she can't believe I haven't watched any Kurosawa movies. So I went and downloaded a bunch on iTunes. I paid for them, which was a bit stupid actually. I should have just got the rental versions, but what the hell, I figured they're classics. And so last night I watched the first one. I watched Rashomon last night. And I've heard of Rashomon. They talk about the Rashomon effect. I think on CSI they talk about it, police shows. There's so many movies based on Rashomon, which is this idea that, a crime, basically a rape and a murder. A woman is raped and her husband is murdered. This is a 1952 movie. Can you believe it? A 1952 movie about a rape and a murder. And the accounts given of, first, of a witness, then of the murderer, then of the raped wife, then of the ghost. They have someone induce the spirit of the murdered husband, and then finally the original witness changes the story and kind of says what he really saw from a distance. And every story is completely different, but you can see all the different perspectives of it. And this whole idea about how there's no real truth, how people's perceptions are always affected. It was so good. And I was watching it without subtitles, of course, and it was kind of very old-fashioned Japanese. But I was just thinking, I was worried it might be a bit too dense because it's set in the 11th century. But no, it was very, very normal, very easy to watch. I mean, with normal Japanese, and it still got me thinking. I can sort of see how it had such a big impact actually at the time. It's not that long. It's only like 1.5 hours long. It's within 90 minutes. And I recommend it. Damn, I mean, it was a really good movie. I'm recommending Kurosawa when, I'm sorry, I obviously I'm well overdue for watching it, but it was really, really good. And that's right, where have I been all these years? So I'm going to watch Seven Samurai and Yojimbo and Kagemusha and Hidden Fortress, and I've got them all set to go, and I'm going to do all those, and hopefully that'll be part of my discussion when I do the next series with Rochelle, who was shocked that I haven't watched these movies, and it was really good. Anyway, Rochelle. So go watch them if you haven't. I mean, I'll endorse it now if you haven't seen them already. But and I haven't seen Yojimbo. I haven't seen them because I've seen so many crap Japanese movies. I've just given up on the whole thing. So there you go. Some tweets just showing again the craziness. That is the KO line again. The line where I was suspended off the ground by the crush of people, and that is like 4 or 5 people pushing people onto the train because it is so crushed, with people's hands popping out the window. This was funny. This is an ad campaign by Kanagawa Prefecture saying women are taking over. Women are taking over and taking charge. Women act. And look at all the sponsors, very famous, prominent people who are supporting women taking over. Boom. Is that a good picture, really, for women act, women taking over? Not really, Kanagawa. Must try harder. A lot of people got a lot of a laugh from that. That was pretty good. Fascinating story this week. Another idol story, not from Japan actually. It's from, we had the whole SMAP thing, which I think we're going to get to, the Becky thing as well. There's another one in South Korea. There's some K-pop idol group in Korea which has a Taiwanese member, and these K-pop, South Korea is very China friendly. It's very China aligned, and the whole K-pop industry is trying to break into China right now. And apparently her group, this particular group where this Taiwanese girl was a member, has concerts lined up in China, in mainland China. A lot of Chinese fans, they're really pushing in that direction, and they happen to have a very cute-looking Taiwanese member. What happened with this was, there she is, not in her best day. There was some photo shoot where she was waving a Taiwanese flag because she's Taiwanese. She was holding, "Hey, I'm Taiwanese," and all the mainland Chinese fans of the group got very, very upset. There's only one China. Don't promote separatism. Are you anti-China? You South Korean group. And the South Korean talent agency of this girl that they hired her. Well, she's been, as I say, her agency's been accused of forcing her. The agency recorded a video apology that she gave, where she asserted not only believing in that there is one China and that China is mainland China, and she apologized for hurting people's feelings by waving the flag of Taiwan. Remembering she's Taiwanese, and so basically her talent agency forced her to give an apology for acknowledging that her country exists and waving her country's flag, and affirmatively stating that the only government of Taiwan is in Beijing. And apparently this caused such outrage in Taiwan. And Taiwan and Korea have a real funny dynamic going on. If you saw the World Baseball Classic, the fans, the Taiwanese fans, Korean fans love to hate Japan. And Japan just kind of grumbles about it. The Taiwanese bash on the South Koreans like crazy. And it's kind of funny. So the Japanese online people love the Taiwanese because of how much they bash on the Koreans who bash on Japan. The negative reaction in Taiwan to seeing a kind of, frankly, humiliation and a kind of looks like abuse of this Taiwanese idol in Korea was part of what resulted in a huge popular burst of support for the pro-independence presidential candidate at the last, and she was popular all the way through. Of course, she became the prime minister, so the president of Taiwan. But yes, apparently that was partly boosted by people felt mobilized because they were so angry at this incident in South Korea of trying to appease China. So that was really, really interesting anyway. And, we've got lots of Taiwanese people in New Zealand, a lot of Taiwanese friends in Japan actually as well. They're like the best friend of Japan in the world. And it's just... so I'm very, very I like Taiwan a lot, and I feel this is why I'm with the people who felt upset about that. Funny thing happened this well. So two things. One, if you don't know anything about Johnny's or the idol industry in Japan, you should read this thing which I've posted down there. It's in 2006 blog translated by Hello Damage. They translate basically a bunch of stuff from weekly magazines covering a lawsuit against Johnny's. Or that Johnny's brought for defamation, and which was succeeded, but not on all the points that it was brought. And it goes into the really, really, really dark, horrible side of the world of Johnny's that includes, again, all rumours and so on, members of SMAP. But some of there have been people who have come out of Johnny's and have claimed, that Johnny's, understand, is a school, kind of like a boarding school, where you send your kids like when they're 12 years old, and they are taught, like they live in the school, they go through education there, and they're taught to dance, and they live in a dorm there. And apparently Johnny, who is now like over 90 years old, would come into the dorm at night and help himself to the boys. And there are a bunch of boys who have come forward and actually testified in court to being, sexually molested by him. And in spite of that, and in spite of that being public information, he survived that. Johnny's is still the most powerful, and Johnny himself is still the most powerful person possibly in the whole entertainment industry in Japan. And they own SMAP. SMAP is one of their groups. Read it for yourself. I'm not going to repeat the details, but kind of damn. SMAP's gone on for a long time. They're in the 25th anniversary year at the moment. 4 of their members, with their manager, fed up of kind of being economically. Apparently, they were in a dispute with the company, and they split away. Only one of the members stayed with Johnny's, but apparently, when the 4 tried to leave and go to another competing talent agency, the other talent agency was so scared of the retaliation by Johnny's about getting blacklisted, I guess, that they actually kind of, on back channels, it now turns out, called up Johnny's and said, look, we won't take them, we don't want to upset you. And they kind of left them with no place to go, and they got forced to go back, and they had to go and do this apology on TV. When SMAP did this apology on TV, the one guy who didn't left was standing in the middle. The former leader of the group, who I don't like, actually, I kind of wish he just left, but he came back. But he was standing on the edge of the stage, not in the center, where he didn't really say anything very much. It was left to another member of the group to thank Kimura, the guy who stayed, for helping them all come back and apologize to Johnny for betraying him. It was a really awkward apology to watch. But the most kind of funny thing, and you could kind of see, there isn't like an open retaliation being taken against the members who threatened to leave, although it caused a big kerfuffle. But Nakai, who was the former leader, people didn't like the way that he went about it. Nakai is also famous, although they call him the leader, he's a bit like the mascot, because he's also the least talented. He's not able to sing. He's really tone deaf, literally. I mean, if you watch any TV special, or you listen to, there's always a slightly off-key part, and it's this guy, Nakai, who's the leader. When they were lining them up, the staff, when the Johnny staff were lining them up in the studio for the apology, they shouted out, they only gave instructions to one person where to stand. They said, Nakai, you stand on the farthest stage right, ichiban shimote. Shimote is a really unusual, it's a sage term which means stage right, but the kanji shimote are typically read as heta. And they said Nakai ichiban heta, ichiban shimote, which literally could be read as ichiban heta. They were shouted out at him just before the apology, Nakai, you suck the most. You are the least talented person, which is true. And it was kind of a backhanded put down that they also shouted at the guy just before it started from the staff. And the whole thing of this, there was this rumor going around the media that SMAP fans were trying to persuade them to get back together by having everybody buy a specific one of their albums. And that, surely enough, SMAP was forced to go back to the original sexual molester company. I mean, the old guys won. The man basically won. They went back, and on top of that, the album which this this album which everyone was buying to try to get them to come back together was like huge seller, and so actually Johnny's has made enormous profits out of sales of an album that people were buying to try to stop them from basically escaping from him. So he's just made a huge profit out of this whole thing. Kind of crazy, anyway. And there has been, given how like they look pale, the four guys who came back, they were lined up with Kimura in the middle, looking very confident, looking very good, and the four who came back literally looking dead. And people said it was a public execution of Nakai, one of the newspapers, and a lot of net people have been saying, with Kimura in the middle and everyone kind of lined up, formal in suits. Kimura looked a bit like Jihadi John lined up with, ISIS people about to be executed. That's how it looked. As an image, it's exactly what it looked like. It was rough. But at the end of the day, Johnny's won. Johnny's won again. Not only did they get smacked back together, they didn't let them escape, but they actually sold a bunch of records as a result of it as well. So they made extra money. So, wow. Anyway, that is what happened with them. Pyeongchang in Korea, they're going to have the Winter Olympics there in 2018, except they are not going to be able to build any of the facilities in time. Plus, this year they haven't even had any snow, and so they are now asking for Nagano to come and bail them out and take over hosting of the Olympics. To which the Japanese internet unanimously says, no, it's got nothing to do with us. Nobody wants to have anything to do with co-hosting any event with South Korea after the Soccer World Cup from 2002. The bad taste left from that. Just the parochialism and the pettiness and so on, and the way so much of it was supposed to be like a friendship building thing, and it had such the opposite effect. And everyone in Japan was saying, hey, you guys are with China now, ask China to do it, don't ask us to do it. We don't want to help out. But apparently some people in Nagano have offered, if you need a backup, we'll be the backup venue. And everyone's saying, don't do it, because Japan's just going to get a bunch of abuse for it, which I think is probably true. And I think it would be a very, very bad idea for Japan to take over the South Korean Winter Olympics. But that's it. They're not going to get it done. They're failing, and they're not going to be able to host it. So we're going to find out what's going to happen with that. We're running out of time, so I'm just going to skip over this. But so just an NHK special on the issues that have come up from having more and more tourists come to Japan. In fact, is there a good summary there? I mean, things just like English-speaking guides, English-speaking capability and so on is kind of limited. Loading. It's taking time. It's NHK. Come on, you're not going to load. Okay, give it 2 seconds and I'm going to switch out. Too late. Anyway, that's in there. The backlash about using the manji symbol. Well, the government, I think they're just being practical-minded. Truth is, even if you know that the manji symbol is not is not a swastika, which I think everyone can figure that much out. They don't know what it actually does mean. They don't know that it means a Buddhist temple, and so making it more easily recognizable as a Buddhist temple, using a pagoda on maps instead of the manji, I still think makes sense. I know that people are saying, well, it's kind of rewarding ignorance, and maybe it is, but there again, they're getting ready for the Olympics, and they want to have as many people come and be comfortable as possible. So, that's all good. Tokyo Toast video blog. Mariko Lockridge, who came on, did a show with me just before. She introduced us to Gigi, actually. She's awesome herself. She's like a video journalist and freelance, travels around the world. She's super cool. And I've followed her Twitter. She's been actually doing a lot of formal video training, like Adobe stuff like that, and she's going to start a video blog, a vlog, and it's going to be really, really good quality because she's a pro, and this is going to be one worth watching anyway. So it drops in 1 week, January 26th, 11 a.m. Get ready for it. I'm going to tweet it anyway when it comes out. I'm going to feature it, but it's going to be super good, so make sure you don't miss that. Again, almost got to 20 million visitors last year. It's crazy how much that's gone up. What happens when shit goes down? Go watch it. That was the best episode that we have done yet together. Codebreaker, that was a track which I played earlier, a bit of an EDM type track, but that was kind of fun. It was late at night. I just wanted to do that. Am I the only person who's noticing that my phone's been dying a lot lately? And it's apparently the batteries just suck in the cold. That's part of it. On 1 minute I've got like 30% showing on my phone, and the next minute it's dead. That's been happening to me. Bunch of maps of Tokyo that I kind of show Tokyo as being kind of big, but maybe too big. It's a little bit exaggerated. I think they're counting too much as Tokyo. But it does paint the picture, which does show how huge Tokyo is. And indeed, another good article on why Tokyo isn't a city. talking about the little, as I talk about often, the little neighborhoods and how they're totally like different culture and different kind of, any kind of interest or hobby-based sort of areas are cool. This is Nihon John, the guy from Book of Host that I was talking about at the start of the show. He did a separate video interview with Victor, 30 minutes long. I haven't watched the whole thing yet. I've watched the first 10 minutes, but he's an interesting guy and it's a good interview, so that's another one to go watch as well as his series. This guy, Kylo Ren in Undercover Boss Starkiller Base Edition. If you haven't seen that, you have to see it. It is so funny. If you've seen The Force Awakens, Kylo Ren is a great character. I think the actor who does it is fantastic. Much better than everything that Anakin should have been and wasn't, actually, in my book, as a character. And brilliant. I mean, this thing, it was from Saturday Night Live. This Undercover Boss Starfleet Starkiller Base, you have to watch it. It was so good. It was so good. This is interesting. Oh man, see, we're up over the hour, but a survey of what Japanese women consider cheating and don't consider cheating, and this is for them, not for the husband, by the way. So apparently, only 3% think it's cheating if you're exchanging line messages with a man who's not your boyfriend. Feeling romantically attracted, only 25% of people think that that's cheating. Of the survey of 20 to 30-year-old women who replied to a survey, going out with one-on-one with another guy to eat, 30% think it's cheating. Holding hands with another guy, holding hands, you're getting into the, okay, 58% agree that that's cheating. Kissing them, yeah, 76.5%. Now, they're getting more into the realm of common sense, but you do have to wonder about, okay, so now we start talking about what is the 23.5% that think that kissing another guy isn't cheating. Having sex with another guy, 23% of women think that that's not cheating, which again, I ask the question, is there cheating? That's an interesting, random, not very helpful list, but I thought that was just there. That was interesting. Good article in the Nippon.com about the origins of Japan's the net uyoku, the right wing. They kind of nail it down to a couple of specific online events, and they say that everyone thinks that they're young, but they're actually older. I'm not sure about their conclusions, but it's worth reading. I'm not going to go into it. I thought this was funny. I thought this person, Rick Wilson, apart from the fact he's conveying that he has obvious issues, actually, I mean, for a start, just to make even this comparison, and apparently he is a geek. Some people looked on as, he makes a lot of geek references online. So the fact that he's talking about waking off to anime in the first place, but in any case, I'd just like to say, I think, this is pretty offensive towards people who whack off to anime to suggest that they are Donald Trump supporters. I feel really bad for them. I've never felt bad for anime masturbators before, but I do now, because this person accused them of supporting Trump. I don't know where that came from. I thought that was super funny, and I think it was really, really rude towards anime masturbators. This was Ted Largo on Twitter did a sketch of myself, Unrested, Victor, and Ryan Boundless, because of course we are a rock band. That's what we do. I'm the dancer. I'm the back dancer, as you can see, doing the haka. And the rest are kind of like a metal band, and they are playing together. And what can you do? What can you do? That is us together, and that is exactly like real life. That is like real life. I do like Unrested. He's a cool guy. But yes. 5 reasons why. This is another one of these Madame Lily things, which I find kind of wishy-washy, but she did a thing on why Japanese who become expats and leave Japan and don't come back, why they don't come back. The first thing is discrimination, and it's true that Japanese who have trouble fitting in Japan, a lot of kind of people who are kind of weird by Japanese standards will leave and don't come back, and I know that firsthand from New Zealand and Australia. You do have a lot more weird Japanese over there than here. I mean, I think they're more suppressed, and that comes into number 2, less sense of freedom to be yourself. Indeed, if you're a little bit weird, you have to kind of hold it in Japan, and overseas they let it out too much, I think, sometimes. But yes, certainly in a place like Australia, you can be yourself much more, and I think that's good. Concerns over children's future. Indeed, you can have I think, there's certainly the preoccupation of having a good quality of life for kids. Sick of working in Japan, the working culture, a lot of burnout people, a lot of people who hate the working thing, indeed, will come to New Zealand. And just people who have lived overseas for too long and they can't go back. And again, and you are treated a bit like an outsider when you go back. Indeed, those are all, I think, valid reasons that I've seen for expats who go overseas. And yeah, that's the thing about the Taiwanese idol thing that I talked about before. And yeah, and there's another thing about Star Wars and Japan parallels, and really, really interesting to read about. And there is my awesome track. And yes, and Netflix has started blocking VPN-based streamers, particularly in New Zealand and Australia. We use this stuff a lot, and I think they're doing it, frankly, to try to as a negotiation tactic. To try to get global licenses from media companies. They're trying to cause a backlash. Frankly, this will lead to more illegal downloading. But I think they want that because at the moment, by using VPNs, they're allowing people to pay for content, even if not on the country segmented rate. And perhaps the media companies are happy to look the other way. So actually, I think Netflix is being smart about this. By blocking this, they want to trigger a backlash. And I think they'll do this. And what they want is global single licenses so that they can have a single Netflix store where all the content's available in every country. I think that's what they want. And they want to achieve that by, reminding everybody how bad it is if you are dependent on that. And yes, okay. And there's the dolphin guy getting deported. And yeah, but, I think it's petty. But there again, only 27 refugees were accepted last year, even though 50% increase in applications. There were like 15,000. And that'll do. Hans Gruber, rest in peace. Okay, let's do some music. End of the show. And I will actually play the track which I just made at the end of the show. And because it's the end of the show, because I'm using Chaos Later, boom, boom. Let me try it a little bit darker. Boom. Let me get the camera going. Boom. Boom, Korg. And I need to get a headphone so I can hear this. So that is how I set up the track. But I think if I go to, okay, so this is what that's what I built up, and I did it into like 16 parts to record it. You know what? I think I can do that. So here is how I would build it up. I need to get a stand for this, for the phone, but anyway. So let's play some music and head out. How do you like that? That was fun. That was actually quite different to the track which I did recording. I did some more stuff with the breakbeats and stuff, and that was actually quite good. I might do a remix. If people like that. But the track is already up on SoundCloud anyway, what I recorded, which I just kept as a very house type of a beat. But that was a lot of fun. I love the top ends, the melodies on that. So enjoy that. And Alan Dick, glad that you liked it. Go check out my SoundCloud. That's what it's there for, and it's there free for you guys to use on your videos, your video games, your movies, whatever. It's all free to use, royalty free. So enjoy that stuff, and have a good night, everybody. Hope you enjoyed the show, and peace. So have a good night, everyone. Let's turn that off. I'm 1 hour 12. Stop streaming. Boom. See you later. Have a good one.